In today's video, we will talk about data types in JavaScript. So basically, data type is a very important concept to know about. To able to operate with variables, it is important to know something about the types of the variables, which type of the variable we are going to store. So basically, in JavaScript, we have the data type of two types, so which provides the to hold the different types of values in it. So basically the types are, one is primitive data type and another is reference data type or non-primitive data type. Also, JavaScript is a dynamic program, dynamic type language we can call it, or we can also call it as scripting language. But dynamic type language is, we call it with for a reason, because we know that the previous video we have seen what is var, let and const. So with we call it dynamic type data in data type in JavaScript, because we can change the value of the JavaScript uh, variable in runtime itself. So let's say if I have to declare any variable which is var a is equal to 10. So basically this is number, right? So number is going to store inside this var a. And also if I have to store any variable of string, so I'm just going to store the string, that is if I write it something like subject, so this is my string data type, right? So this is how the data type are going to store it. Suppose if I want to change the value of these data types, I can change it in any time during runtime itself. Suppose I can store this a is equal to 20. So here I am reinitializing it, right? Suppose if I want to store the same a again, if I want to reinitialize with the same var, and I want to store a string, that is hello, right? So even JavaScript allows us. So that's why we call it a dynamic type language. So these are the two types we have: primitive data type and non-primitive data type. Let's see in code how we are going to write these types of variables. Move this code and let's write a different one. So suppose if I want to store number, in that case I can store it as let L is equal to 40. Okay, or if I want to store again number, I can write b is equal to 90, right? In the same way, if I want to store string, I can store it, strings can be stored as let is equal to color, if I want to store as red, right? So let's store it as red, correct? In the same way, if I want to store another boolean values, so I can also store booleans in variables, that is let x is equal to true or let y is equal to false. One more important things to be noticed here is I am not using false, right? So I am not using var. So after ES6 it was being recommended to use let and const. What is the difference between var, let and const? That we have seen it in the previous video. If you haven't watched that video, link will be in the description box or in the I button. Please watch those videos and that will be useful for you to understand. Suppose if I want to run this code, I'm just going to use my console log. So here my console is getting printed, right? L is getting printed. In the same way, if I want to print my boolean value, which I kept it as y as false, so here my false will be printed. So 40 is printing for L and false is printing for my boolean value, which I have stored it here. So these are the primitive data types. Let's see some example of non-primitive data type. So we'll see object, how we can create the object in this. So for object, that is a reference type. Again, here I'm just taking one const just to show you an example of const, so that I can just use as a person, and that I'm just using as a curly bracket as first name, as code, and with comma I'm going to separate with the second name as for placement. console.log will give me the person. Suppose if I'm going to run this, I'm getting 40 for my L, Y is for this one, and boolean, and const is for my object data types. So these are the data types which we have it, and let's back to the slide. So here the data type will be, if we talk about the remaining thing, it will be the data types. Basically here I'm just talking about the primitive data type which we are having. In primitive data type, it will be string, numbers, boolean, undefined, null. So string is being used for storing a string value, number is stored for storing number, boolean is used for storing true or false, undefined means it to represent any undefined values, or null means there is no values. Apart from this, we also have few more, that is big int, right? So we have big int in to store the big integer values. Apart from these things, now we'll see some non-primitive data type, or we can call it as reference data type. That is nothing but object to represent the instance through which we can access the member of it, and also we have array to represent the group of similar values. Then we have reg exp expressed to represent the regular expression. So these are the few types of data types available in JavaScript, and also in the next video we'll see about operators. So stay tuned guys, and do subscribe to Code for Placement, and we'll meet in the next video. Thank you.